Now call the meeting to order, and just before we get rolling, I remind everyone to turn your phones off, and if you do get a buzz, you go outside, okay, in the hallway, and take the message, and everyone's present except our two youth members this evening. It's too bad. It's just a short agenda, and hopefully they were going to bring something to it for us. So, looking for any conflicts of interest amongst the council members? No, that's good. We're looking for the adoption of the published agenda for Monday, February 22nd. Councillor Snively, Councillor Caxero. Robert, please.
Yep. Your Worship, I would ask Council to consider adding to this evening's agenda, perhaps as item 7C under reports, the clerk's report on closed session business, which occurred today at 5:30 when Council went into closed meeting, as permitted to do so under Section 239 of the Municipal Act.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Caxero, question?
Through you, Your Worship, if you need a motion to that effect, that's fine. If not, if you just need direction, I'm fine with that.
Yes, direction's fine. Yeah, perfect. Councillor Votes.
In terms of that, or what I have?
No, either or both.
Okay, I do have some new business as it relates to our last budget deliberation meeting.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Malash.
Also, I have
Mike. Might need to hit the button on the sides, everyone. I don't know if they got turned on.
Yes, I just have a brief announcement as to a function that's going on in the town of Essex that I'd like to bring to the attention of the public at the end.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anything else? Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Motion carries. Okay, Rob. Thanks.
Item number 4, adoption of minutes. 4A, February 1st, 2016, special council meeting.
Moved by Councillor Vogt, supported by Councillor Caxero. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 4B, February 8th, 2016, regular council meeting.
Councillor Bjorkman, supported by Councillor Deputy Mayor Malash. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Next on the agenda is item 5, public presentations. The first presentation is a presentation of Fire Chief Rick Arnell with respect to presentation of the Governor General's Fire Services Exemplary Service Medals.
Chief Arnell, could you come into the center, please?
Next, item 5B, presentation to be received by Richard Wyma, General Manager, Secretary Treasurer for Essex Region Conservation Authority, providing council with their 2015 annual report.
Welcome, Mr. Wyma. I think you have to push the button on the side, it looks like. The other one? Yep. There we go.
Perfect, thank you. It's, I've always felt when I was at that end of the table, it's such a long way from here, so I am very pleased to be here again this evening. I enjoy what I call my annual tour, which follows consistently my, or the approval of IRCA's budget and our annual report. So I'm here to present that tonight, but as you know, I also like to start my presentation with a quote, and recently I found one from novelist and President Emeritus of Penn International, John Ralston Saul, who said, "Facts are important, but we build societies based on creativity and imagination. Societies imagine themselves into the future." And I like that quote because I think it reflects very well on the work that conservation authorities do. We are and always have been a science-based organization. We rely heavily on science as a starting point. Our watershed-based programs have provided an ongoing, consistent response to very real and serious problems and challenges. Things like land degradation, loss of natural area cover and habitat, flooding and erosion. These all have a significant impact to the quality of our place. But today, as we look at new issues such as water quality in the Great Lakes, climate change adaptation, stormwater management, these demand integrated watershed management approaches to meet the needs and interests of our regions. These solutions need a more creative and imaginative approach to define our cities and societies into the future. But because these are new issues, we also have to look at new ways of learning. We have to work with new partners and find new creative solutions with municipalities and other stakeholders. Ultimately, our ability to do so will be measured by how healthy and sustainable our communities are, how resilient our region is to the changes we're seeing in our landscape today, and how well we work together to respond to those changes. So with that introduction, I will first showcase the annual report. Then I'll come back to speak about some of the activities that we've got planned for 2016. Is there something I do on this end, or is it all set up?
Yep, should be ready to go.
Our Great Lakes, and in particular Lake Erie, have demonstrated their resilience through the centuries. In the 1970s, Lake Erie was notoriously declared dead, but over the next few decades, and thanks to the efforts of many, it was substantially rehabilitated. However, with the impacts of a changing climate, our Great Lakes are facing greater challenges than ever before, and the blue-green algal bloom of 2015 was the worst on record. In response, IRCA increased its efforts to create a resilient and sustainable future for the Essex region.
I was going to say I'd never have had a strong enough hint that I should finish my presentation quickly.
Allowing the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change to set environmental targets and enabling communities to address local problems. Bi-national commitments have been made to meet phosphorus reduction goals at all levels and to work collectively towards again restoring the most towards reducing phosphorus runoff. IRCA created a digital elevation model for the 3 local watersheds. This tool will be used to find areas in agricultural fields that are prone to erosion and target projects to protect the soil in these vulnerable locations. We also continue
maxed out the volume on this end, so
initiatives aimed at reducing phosphorus levels from future. IRCA was selected as one of only 4 conservation authorities in Ontario to successfully partner with the Ontario's Our Great Lakes, and in particular Lake Erie, have demonstrated their resilience through the centuries. In the 1970s, Lake Erie was notoriously declared dead, but over the next few decades, and thanks to the efforts of many, it was substantially rehabilitated. However, with the impacts of a changing climate, our Great Lakes are facing greater challenges than ever before, and the blue-green algal bloom of 2015 was the worst on record. In response, IRCA increased its efforts to create a resilient and sustainable future for the Essex region. We congratulated the Province of Ontario for passing the Great Lakes Protection Act, allowing the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change to set environmental targets and enabling communities to address local problems. Bi-national commitments have been made to meet phosphorus reduction goals at all levels and to work collectively towards again restoring the most vulnerable of our Great Lakes. In making progress towards reducing phosphorus runoff, IRCA created a digital elevation model for the 3 local watersheds. This tool will be used to find areas in agricultural fields that are prone to erosion and target projects to protect the soil in these vulnerable locations. We also continued several important research initiatives aimed at reducing phosphorus loadings from fields and greenhouses while studying its impacts on recreational beaches. IRCA was selected as one of only 4 conservation authorities in Ontario to successfully partner with the Ontario Soil and Crop Improvement Association to offer the new Priority Sub-Watershed project. This pilot will target a section of Wyville Creek in Kingsville and implement as many best management practices as possible to reduce phosphorus flowing into Lake Erie. Knowledge gained by this in-depth study will be used to guide projects in other local watersheds. We completed and began implementing the Essex Region Source Protection Plan to protect the sources of our municipal drinking water. And we assumed risk management services on behalf of our 9 municipal partners to ensure contaminants are kept out of our rivers and lakes. IRCA continued improvements along the Grand Maris Drain to reduce the risk of flooding. Following a biological assessment, overgrown trees and brush were removed. A planting strategy to regrow vegetation that will not impact water flow is planned for the future. We also hosted a workshop for municipal staff on the updated Intensity Duration Frequency Curve study. This scientific information will be used to help ensure infrastructure is more resilient to changing weather patterns. In 2015, IRCA carefully monitored water levels as they reached the highs of 1998. Significant coastal flooding was experienced at that time, so IRCA took extra efforts to ensure emergency preparedness with our municipal partners. We also approved a record number of permit applications and development proposals to ensure homes and people are safe from the dangers of flooding and erosion. Continued investments were made in our conservation areas to maintain the sustainability of these important public places. We built an additional kilometer of trail in partnership with the County of Essex and the Trans-Canada Trail Foundation to bring us closer to connecting the Essex region and Leamington Greenways. We replaced 200 feet of boardwalk at Copagarron Woods to ensure that it is safe and accessible for our visitors. The classroom at Holiday Beach was refreshed with help from Union Gas. We created interpretive signage in partnership with the Ontario Field Ornithologist and Peely Wings Nature Store to highlight the bird species that can be spotted in the Hillman Marsh shorebird habitat. We also celebrated the grand opening of the new Eco Washroom at Holiday Beach. Thanks to a partnership with the Gateway Heirloom chapter of Questers, the master bedchamber at the John R. Park Homestead was reappointed. Innovative technology was used to create wallpaper based on the antique fragments that were found inside of a homestead cupboard. In striving to create a state of environmental sustainability for our region, we planted over 125,000 trees and restored 142 acres of habitat. 4 new wetlands were created to increase biodiversity and provide habitat for a variety of wildlife, including species at risk. IRCA partnered with the Devonshire Mall and Detroit River Canadian Cleanup to create a native plant garden, emphasizing how on-the-ground actions help to improve the health of the entire watershed. We were pleased to be honored by the Carolinian Canada Coalition and received a conservation award for 4 decades of significant contributions in protecting and restoring Carolinian habitat. Recognizing that an educated population contributes to a resilient community, we continue to engage citizens in conservation efforts. IRCA introduced the Teen Ranger program for young people aged 12 to 15 to provide environmental leadership skills and created a benthic water quality monitoring program for secondary school students. Our new Earth Day Traveling Roadshow was offered at no charge to schools around the region, and through this 10-day pilot program, 2,700 additional elementary students were engaged in environmental education. We hosted 38 public events and worked with over 2,500 volunteers to implement 44 tree planting, restoration, and other outreach projects. Over the past year, we consulted broadly to gather information.
We're just getting to the best part, too, but As my 5-year-old says, somebody must have dropped the disc when he borrows something from a library. What I can do is I'll just continue on with my part of the talk. I know the video is available, and there's only a moment or two left in the video, so I appreciate the time for this evening. The work that you saw in this video, though, cannot be done without members of a strong board. And so tonight, I certainly do want to acknowledge Councillor Snively and Councillor Bjorkman, who have been great on our board and have represented your community well within our watershed context that the Conservation Authority relies on or works with. Our 2016 budget continues to build on and implement a way forward, our 5-year sustainability plan, which we launched in 2013. That plan outlined an approach that responds to accumulated issues and challenges and positions IRCA to more effectively respond to what we call the next generation of conservation challenges that I spoke of at the beginning. To date, implementation of that plan has exceeded our expectations and the anticipated benefits to the authority and the region. Things like, and you saw some of that on the video, capital improvements such as a new beach washroom at Holiday Beach, parking lot and drainage improvements to John R. Park Homestead, Maidstone conservation areas, boardwalk replacement, which continues today at Copegarin Woods, about 65 or 70% complete. Stream stabilization, rehabilitation of Mill Creek, new netting on the Greenway, some significant capital improvements to the sites that people come and like to call their own. We've reduced our accumulated operational deficit from $437,000 in 2012 to a projected $96,000 by the end of this year, and that's projected to be zero by the end of next year. We've undertaken significant departmental consolidation that has led to improved and enhanced program delivery, and we've established new partnerships, I should say, with other conservation authorities, universities, and agencies that have led to things like the updated climate change adaptation studies, the intensity, duration, frequency curve you saw in that video, a new national focus now that this region is part of a national flood net research proposal that's being led by University of McMaster and Waterloo, and a number of other coordinated efforts that we have with all of our member municipalities. So this 2016 plan continues to implement those 3 key directions, including in some of the highlights, we'll be finalizing our comprehensive watershed planning and development policy manual. That's a manual that will integrate our existing regulatory and policy direction with associated best practices with the goal of providing clarity to everyone in terms of how what the rules and regulations and policies are that IRCA follows in undertaking its work. We'll be coordinating the development of stormwater management guidelines, and I know that's been talked about in this municipality. And we'll be doing that with all of our municipal partners to ensure that there's consistent standards and modeling criteria for the entire region. And that will consider our existing and just recently completed IDF study. And both of those, I think, are great examples of partnerships that the Conservation Authority can bring where we can coordinate these studies on behalf of all municipalities, which has tremendous savings and efficiencies at the same time. We'll be undertaking and updating our memorandums of understanding with all of our municipal partners to facilitate the review and technical clearance of municipal and county planning applications. We'll be working with some municipalities in developing natural heritage system strategies as part of official plan updates. We'll complete somewhere between $1.2 and $2 million worth of water and erosion control infrastructure projects. Of course, that's subject to WECI funding approval, including some additional work on the Grand Mares Drain in the City of Windsor. We'll complete our public consultation for the Holiday Beach Management Plan and initiate the development of management plans for Cedar Creek right here in Essex. We'll begin and hopefully complete construction of the Cipher Systems Group Greenway that will connect Essex to Amherstburg, and that's with tremendous support, again, from the town of Essex as well as other federal and corporate partners. At the same time, we're working through the foundation and other partners to complete what I call the Old Castle Hub, or that 3-kilometer gap between the end of the Chrysler Canada Greenway, the Herbgray Parkway trails, the town of LaSalle trails, and the town of Tecumseh trails, a pretty important gap in that trail system. And we're also, as shown on the video, looking to extend the Greenway into Leamington and to complete the connection not only with the town of Leamington, but with the Trans-Canada Trail Network. So the vision that we had in the 1990s when I was with IRCA before about a region connected by trails is going to be substantially closer by the end of 2016. We'll restore, again, another 125 acres of land, 20 acres of prairie, creating at least 4 new wetlands, planting over 120,000 trees and collecting over 2,000 pounds of seeds as part of our restoration programs. We're undertaking a Phragmites control program at Hillman Marsh in partnership with Caldwell First Nations, and hopefully we'll learn some things there that we can apply and look at applying in other parts of this region, because we know Phragmites is certainly affecting the entire region and a lot of Ontario. Continuing to implement research and education outreach initiatives supporting the reduction of phosphorus to Lake Erie, including the analysis of water control structures for tile drainage management, rain gardens for urban stormwater management, urban and rural low-impact development projects, and continuing to research innovative farming practices and best management practices. And you saw reference to what we call the GLASSY program, and we'll be undertaking that significantly in 2016. We're also working with other academic partners, and it hasn't been officially announced yet, but we're working on a research project to identify persistent and emergent water quality issues and tracking the sources of contamination that's affecting the closure of our local beaches in an effort to try to understand how we can remediate and ultimately improve local water quality, especially at our beaches. Implementing risk management services, again, as it relates to the Clean Water Act on behalf of all municipalities. Another great example of a cost-effective means of delivering those obligations under the Clean Water Act. And I believe this municipality has been recently confirmed that the funding source that was available to other municipalities is now available to this municipality as well, which is something we've advocated for since that funding program was announced 2 years ago. So it's very great to see that it's come forward. Providing ongoing coordination and support for the Remedial Action Plan, looking at the Detroit River area of concern with Environment Canada, MOECC, municipalities, stakeholders, and other partners, including the U.S. The delivery of that RAP program, or the Remedial Action Plan program, the Detroit River Canadian Cleanup, is through our office. We'll be undertaking a Detroit River fish habitat study to assess the type, location, and some of the approximate costs and details of coastal or in-water habitat structures that we can apply to and use in future years to continue to find ways of enhancing fish habitat structures along the Detroit River and as a means of targeting funding to some of those priority projects. Continuing to work with school boards to provide better service to the nearly 8,500 students annually who experience our education programs. Also looking to increase our French language programming, and this year we've just launched our specialist high skills major certification program that, again, I know was discussed by this council. Hosting a Lake Erie student conference to connect secondary school students, teachers, and Great Lakes professionals in the Western Lake Erie Basin to learn a little bit more and connect more with Lake Erie and highlight Great Lakes related career opportunities across a broad range of professions that respond to science, technology, engineering, and math requirements of our curriculum. In the coming months, we'll be completing our 2016 to 2025 strategic plan, so you'll probably see me again on another tour to launch and to announce that plan to all of our municipalities. That plan will help guide our projects and priorities over the next 10 years, and part of what we're looking to do in that plan is continue to build on and continue to implement what we called our regional roundtable, where we invited and met with CEOs and CAOs from 12 regional agencies and regional-like organizations to promote cross-organizational efficiencies and just find ways of better working together and better promoting this region together through supporting each other. Finalizing upgrades to our information and records management systems and upgrading our internet service and network equipment. This is essential so that we can find and get access to the information that we need and that our clients need in a timely manner. There's a lot more, but that's a snapshot of some of the things we'll be doing in 2016. And again, we've continued to demonstrate a history of balancing these projects and priorities with local investment. And we certainly continue to understand that the challenges that all municipalities face. For example, IRCA has introduced its capital and operational reserves, its deficit reduction program, and its organizational stabilization that I mentioned earlier, with no increase in levy contributions directly attributable to those outcomes. And I think that's a significant achievement for our board. Our 2016 budget totals a little under $8.5 million. It includes a levy contribution from member municipalities of $2.9 million, which represents an increase of 65 cents per household to a total of $15.57. And that includes funding for our capital and operational reserves, phased-in capital replacement, as well as continued funding to our core programs and initiatives. IRCA continues to be in the top 10 of all 36 conservation authorities in terms of programs and program-related revenue, mostly that we deliver and bring into this region. But at the same time, we continue to be in the bottom 5 of all 36 conservation authorities in terms of general levy as a percentage of our total revenues, about 21.7%, which is well below the provincial average which is 20% more at 41.6%. And I think that in itself clearly demonstrates the tremendous value that IRCA brings this region. In fact, most of the programs and projects I highlighted, and many that you saw in the video tonight, rely almost exclusively on that external funding, and that's funding that we're able to bring into this region. Given our daily reliance on our natural resources, it's critical that we continue to build resilient local watersheds in order to ensure healthy people and ultimately a reliable and sustainable economy and a place that people want to call home. So thank you for your time this evening. I'm certainly happy to respond to any questions if there are any.
Councillor Snively?
Through your worship, I just want to thank you, Rick, for tremendous amount of work that IRCA puts out there. That's the future for our kids and for our grandchildren, clean water, clean air, and I'm really, really impressed with IRCA. I'm proud to be part of it, so thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bjorkman?
Thank you, through you, your worship. Yes, Richard, thank you very much for your presentation. I was going to mention a couple of things, but I think you got to everything. But looking at, again, the general levy that they bring in as being 22% of the budget. I figure for every dollar we put in there, we get $4 back that goes into our area and goes into our waters and goes into our clean air and goes into the projects, which is fantastic. For us right now with the flooding, working on the curves, working on the stormwater plans, and partnering with other conservation authorities, we get back what we couldn't do on our own. So I just think it's terrific. It's well worth what comes down to $15 per household to get the benefit that we get out of this organization. So thank you very much, and I have really enjoyed being part of it this year, so we're looking forward to another one. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Caixero? Oh,
Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, please. Just one thing, through your worship. One thing I forgot, I really encourage the public to go out and see some of the projects that IRCA has done. Holiday Beach, all our parks, just go out there and take a look at the work they've done. Thank you.
And our video in its entirety is on our YouTube channel as well, so in case you want to see that last minute or two.
Councillor Caixero?
Through your worship, thanks for the presentation, Richard. Certainly the one thing that caught my attention was the Specialist High Skilled Majors program. Certainly would like you to bring that message to the school board and to our premier. We certainly would love to take advantage of that program in Harrow. But all joking aside, you guys do great work. My first term of council back, 2003 to 2006, I was a big critic all the time. The fact that your increases were, I thought, exorbitant each year, pushing well over, 7, 8, 10, 15% each year. And today I realize the value we get for that. And certainly I can appreciate the organization. You guys do a great job.
Anyone else? Wrap up comments, sir? No? Okay. Thank you very much for coming, and motion received. Councillor Bjorkman and Councillor Bondi, any questions? Motion. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
I did hear that I think I can come back with 8% increase next year, is what I heard, so.
I don't know.
Item 5C, we have a presentation from Kristen Ives, Curator, Education Coordinator, here on behalf of John R. Park Homestead and Essex Region Conservation Authority, who invites us to declare March as Maple Month in the town of Essex.
Welcome, Christian.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of Council. I'm here tonight to invite the town to officially declare March as Maple Month in the beautiful town of Essex. As you know, the John R. Park Homestead is the only living historical farm museum west of London. In 2010, the Homestead received the Russell K. Cooper Award as Best Living History Museum in Ontario. Annually, the Homestead welcomes nearly 15,000 visitors to our 19-acre property to experience life in the 1850s and to connect with nature. Our costumed interpreters recreate pioneer times and connect our past to the continued need for human and environmental conservation. Annually, the Essex Region Conservation Authority hosts a number of themed events at the Homestead, and most popular is our Maple program, celebrating the first taste of spring while promoting the cultural and natural history of maple in our region. Over the 30 days of maple season, the homestead receives approximately 30% of its entire annual visitorship. For over 30 years, we've celebrated the spring tradition of tapping trees and making syrup. This year, we're continuing to expand on last year's efforts and deeming all of March as IRCA's Maple Month. We'll be working with our 90 volunteers, offering a number of public events, including Essex County's premier Maple Syrup Festival, as well as March Break and other programs geared for families. The Homestead works with the local commercial maple producer to offer each of our 3,000 visitors an opportunity to enjoy a pure and sweet maple treat. But this celebration is not just about maple syrup. It's also dedicated to the science behind maple trees, which are a mainstay of our local environment. This year, we'll be launching a new Science of Maple exhibit in our visitor center, and our educators will be teaching people about the science behind the process of maple syrup making, the importance of these trees, and tying the tree's survival into broader issues of ecological sustainability. Maple trees are a consistent part of IRCA's tree planting efforts throughout Windsor-Essex, and we'll be using Maple Month as an opportunity to promote IRCA's environmental work as well. We're reaching out tonight to the town of Essex to assist in the celebration of this important part of our human and natural history. We would ask that you formally declare March as Maple Month in the town, and with your support, we hope that more local citizens will seek our sweet offerings and learn about the history of maple in our region, as well as its broader ecological significance. Thank you in advance for your consideration. We look forward to celebrating Maple Month with you, the citizens of the town of Essex and beyond.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments? Councillor Bondi.
Just like to thank you for coming and make a motion that we declare March Maple Month in the town of Essex.
Moved by Councillor Bondi, supported by Councillor Snively. Any questions to the motion? Councillor Caxero, question?
Just a comment, I did attend last year with my kids. It is a great event, and actually I encouraged principal at the kids' school to send a group. They hadn't sent a group in some time, and they ended up doing that, and I think they enjoyed themselves.
Deputy Mayor Malash?
Thank you, through your worship. Just, Kristen, can you repeat the dates for your event?
Certainly. So the Maple Syrup Festival, which is our large one-day event, will be Sunday, March the 6th from 11 a.m. until 4 p.m. Maple March Break takes place on the Tuesday and Friday of March Break, the 15th and 18th this year. It happens at 1:30 sharp. And on the Tuesday evening, we also have Maple Moon, an exclusive opportunity to see the homestead by candlelight and experience a pioneer sugaring off party. We're fully booked for education programs now, and we're really excited to say that we've really had a lot of response to this year's advertising for those programs, and every grade, it seems, from JK through grade 8s are coming out, as well as we're reaching high school students, as was mentioned earlier, through our Specialist High Skills Major program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Okay. All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Item 7 on the agenda, reports from administration. Item 7A, corporate services, report number 2016-01, with 2 recommendations: that said report be received, and that bylaw number 1469 to enter into an amending agreement with the Ontario Provincial Police for the reinstatement of the full-time position of contract manager be passed.
Councillor Caxero and Councillor Bjorkman. Moved, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Councillor Bondi.
Thank you. Through to administration, I know when we talked about hiring this essential service that our council did talk about, we did talk about a concern with overtime. Is there any negotiation that we've, the contract price is $147,000. I don't know if there's a situation where we can cap overtime or do overtime worked in lieu, or I'm just wondering if 147 is all in, or if we're looking at a plus, or if it's hard to predict.
Would we have that information? Ms. Hunter?
Through you, Your Worship, at this point, that's an all-in number. What was presented at the last meeting, that was the all-in number.
Mr. Kaxaro.
Through your worship, just to clarify, the amount is actually 176, Councillor Bondi. And then there's just over $3,500, around $3,500 of startup costs. With regards to overtime, I believe when the discussion was had, they are eligible for overtime. That position is eligible, and it's based on their seniority and all that kind of stuff. So they're not going to deviate from that. It's as per the way they do business.
Councillor Vokes.
Thank you, Worship. I want to go back to what Councillor Kaxaro said, because we were in the room right here when the job was put on question, and I was one of the ones who didn't support it. And with that being said, one of the questions I had is how much costs are we inheriting with that job outside of salary? And I was left with the impression that that job, as you had suggested in correcting Councillor Bondi, was 176, all in. No overtime, no nothing. That's as Donna had indicated. And now you're saying, as a chairperson of the police board, that it's not. So we need to define whether it is or it isn't. Because the overtime on that particular job in community events and everything else, as Mr. Mailing did, will run out of control. And my question was his office staffing, my question was his office, my question was his overheads, my question was, there was 6 or 7 questions as it related to his job and to his costs. And one specifically was the overtime aspect of it. And I was left with the same beliefs as Don is suggesting, that that is all in. And if it's not, then we better table this and we better go back and find out what it really means.
Councillor Kaxaro.
Through your worship, and Russ and Donna can correct me if I'm wrong, or if they feel I'm wrong, but to the best of my knowledge, I believe the indication was from the detachment commander, Glenn Miller, they are entitled to overtime.
Mrs. Hunter.
Through you, Your Worship, I don't have that sheet in front of me with the breakdown of the cost, but I do believe that they put an estimate for overtime in that sheet, so that would cover some of the overtime if there were overtime. But that's based on the old funding model and how they used to do enhancements, so I'm sorry I don't have that sheet in front of me, so I can't verify that, but in the past, that's what they've done.
Okay, I'll go to Councillor Vokes.
Thank you, Your Worship. With that being said, I'm going to request that council table this until we get complete definition as to what it is we're paying for and approving of as a council. Because there totally could be a big difference between what is before us and what could be. And just last week, respectfully to Councillor Malash, in terms of his diligence, which turned out to be doing the right thing, as it related to crosswalks, he asked council to table the issue until we find out how much the insurance was, and we should be doing the same with this, because we had nothing defined 100%. We just can't be going, yeah, let's move with it, and then find out it's an abundance. Yeah, a week won't matter, a couple weeks won't matter.
Okay, I have a motion to table. And before we ask for a second, beg pardon? Yes. To receive this,
I support to table it.
Yeah, now, do we have to either remove that, or? It's a motion on the table now. To get a table motion. Okay, we'll go to Councillor Kaxaro and Councillor Bjorkman to see if they will agree to table or remove their motion.
Point of order, I believe that when it's tabled, if it's seconded, there's no discussion, and you vote on tabling it. There's no questioning the mover and the seconder, whether or not they're in favor of it.
The question is, are they allowed to table with the motion on?
I believe so. You did have a
Right.
seconder.
We do have a seconder? Okay.
Okay.
Councillor
So
Bodie.
we had a seconder and Councillor Vokes. It's tabled. Thank you very much. Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 7B, Corporate Services Report Number Clerk 2016-01 with 2 recommendations for said report to be received, and that the August 15, 2016 regular council meeting be changed to August 22nd, 2016.
Councillor Caxero.
I'll move the recommendation, and once this motion is through, I'd just like to go back to the last item.
Okay. Supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Any questions to this motion? All in favor? Motion carried. Councillor Caxero?
Through your worship, in our agenda package, I believe it's page 38. So in the agenda package, there was the breakdown for that cost, and I don't see anywhere here where it mentions anything about overtime. I realize that. I'm just pointing out the fact there is information in the agenda to show that there wasn't anything in there with regards to the overtime. Just so that if everybody wants to go back after the meeting and take a look at that, page 38.
Thank you, sir.
Item 7C, as added to the agenda, is Clerk's Report on Closed Business to be received. Your Worship, at 5:30 this evening, Council moved a motion to move into closed session to consider business, as it is permitted to do so under Section 239(1)E of the Municipal Act. In the interest of transparency and open government, I'd like the opportunity to report in public session general outcomes from that closed session. Firstly, I report that at today's closed session, Council received updated information concerning the Captain's Gallery restaurant litigation, and discussion ensued concerning the status of said proceedings. And lastly, I report that no other litigation or other matters were discussed in closed session.
Thank you very much, sir.
And I believe we have a motion to receive.
Yes, sir. Deputy Mayor Malosh, Councillor Snively. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 8, correspondence. 8A, correspondence from Autism Ontario, inviting council to participate in Autism Ontario's Raise the Flag campaign on April 4th for receipt and support with the proclamation of April 4th, 2016 as World Autism Awareness Day in the town of Essex.
Councillor Caxero moves. Supported
I'll move
by
and support, yeah.
Councillor Snively. Comment?
Through your worship, seeing as we support this, I hope going forward this year that the fencing gets done down in Colchester to create an autistic-friendly park down there, and it'll show our support even more for the cause.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Malosh.
Thank you, through you, your worship, to Mr. Sweet. Mr. Sweet, I think we've raised the flag in the past for autism on Autism Day.
Doug?
Through your worship, yes, we have, and we do have as an annual recurrence to put that back up as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further? All in favor? Motion carries.
Correspondence, item 8B, correspondence from the town of Aurora to Premier Wynne, asking that the Government of Ontario limit the jurisdiction of the Ontario Municipal Board be received, and that the request for support be forwarded to administration for review and recommendation.
Councilor Bjorkman,
Move receive and forward to administration.
okay, supported by Deputy Mayor Malash. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 8C for receipt, Committee of Adjustment meeting agenda, February 16, 2016.
Moved by Councilor Snively and Councilor Caxaro supports. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 8D, that the email from AMO Communications asking Essex Council to consider supporting a request for the province to change the current Municipal Act investment regulation to allow municipalities to invest consistent with the prudent investment standard be received, and that the request for support be forwarded to administration for review and recommendation.
Councilor Caxaro.
Move receipt and defer to administration for recommendation.
Thank you, sir. Supported by Councilor Bjorkman. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 9, committee meeting minutes, specifically items 9A to 9D, inclusive, for receipt and adoption as presented, with the recommendation in 9C to be forwarded to administration for review and recommendation.
Moved by Councilor Bjorkman, supported by Councilor Caxaro. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 10, financial, for ratification, the December 2015 bank payments report.
Moved by Councilor Caxaro, supported by Deputy Mayor Malash. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 11, new business. Item 11A, Councilor Borkman, discussion on parameters for new business council agenda item with a proposed motion that the discussion brought forward be received and forwarded to administration for review and report back to council.
Councilor Bjorkman. Comments?
No, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay.
I'm in favor.
Okay. Motion made, supported by, no, anyone. Councilor Caxaro, comment. Councilor Snively.
Through your worship, I understand what, with the new business here and in the past, but I don't see a problem moving forward the way we're doing it now. Like the new business has come up the last couple meetings. We've got through that. There's some things I understand. It's got to come to the mayor first if the mayor's going to allow it to go through, and I agree with that. But I mean, moving forward, what's happening in the last couple meetings, I thought it was moving, fairly well, and I don't think we had a problem with new business anymore. So that's all I got to say. But I respect your opinion, Steve Bjorkman. But I don't think there was a problem anymore, moving forward. That's all I say, Councillor. So.
Okay. Councilor Vokes.
Thank you, Worship. In terms of the new business structure, I agree, obviously, with Councillor Snively. If it's not broke, there's no need to fix it. And changing the process will be an attempt to fix something that's not broke. The mayor respectfully had a concern, whatever motivated that concern to come forward in terms of question council on whether they felt as though there was a need be for new business. And council endorsed wholly, not only council, but the mayor himself also supported the fact that there's not a need to address the new business concern. In those discussions, it just happened to arise about some type of different format to handle new business. And I got to suggest to council, the new business portion of it isn't broke. Because if it would have been broke and it would have needed to been addressed, we would have done that last week. And this council wholeheartedly across the board endorsed that it is fine as be. And I get very concerned with the direction council goes in terms of committees. Now we'll generally have a new business committee. We got a personnel committee making decisions on council with only one or two councillors not involved in it. We got a financial committee with only one or two councillors not involved in it. And we got a host of other committees that make decisions for this council and the taxpayers every day, that other coming through a report or some type of recommendation, they're not in the grassroots of those decisions. And it's not always politically friendly for some of us. So with that being said, I don't feel there is a need for a new business committee to decide for one of us whether or not what we want to bring is worthy of discussing. If that's the structure, even if it's not the structure of it, there's not a need to, in all due respect to Councillor Bjorkman, there's not a need, as far as I'm concerned, to go any further as a council on addressing the new business issue.
Hey, Deputy Mayor Mosh.
What I find right now with the new business item on the agenda is I don't know what the rules are. I don't know if there's any rules that have ever been spelled out as to what should be on there or not be on there. And maybe I can ask that. I don't know if administration would know that. Is there a general set of rules right now that says something is permitted as to something else is not permitted? Like how do we determine what should or shouldn't go on?
Mr. Phillips?
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. This is an item that we've discussed at orientation with council, with new council and with existing council in terms of what we see as some of the issues in introducing new business. And one of the things that I related to the previous council, maybe not so much with this council, but something that I've seen, and it's something that we wanted to talk about as administration as well, and we're going to do some research on it. But there's the ability for this council currently to introduce something at a meeting, at tonight's meeting, for example, under new business, and you could effectively pass law by giving something a motion, reading it, and passing 3 by. That I see is that you've had no public consultation. You've not allowed the public to know that this is going to be on the agenda because you introduced it tonight without their knowledge. This is the public's house. And without their input, it's not transparent. So my theory is that, and it's something that I've seen work well in other jurisdictions, is to have no more than 2 readings at any given meeting, such that if you are going to introduce new business, you can't effectively pass that resolution tonight. The other danger I guess I see in it is when you take a look at the head count in a particular council room, if you saw that a particular member of council that may have had this on their agenda for a long period of time to move one way, that they wanted to go left, and everybody else in the room wanted to go right, and the night that they're not there, they're taking a holiday or something, somebody on council says, you know what, Councillor X isn't here tonight, I want to go this way. And they introduce that, get it, what I refer to as ramrodding it through the council, and it effectively becomes law. Again, the public consultation has not been brought in. So when I look at, and currently your authorities, your procedural bylaw allows you to do that. And that was one of the comments, and I've had this discussion with some members of council individually. I think it needs to be revamped. And I would like to think that your administration could work on that and come back with some ideas or some concepts on it. I have had some conversation with Councillor Bjorkman in terms of not just the consent agenda, but looking at how you create agendas to ensure that the items that are going to go in front of council and at any particular time have the ability to be vetted through administration, to give administration the opportunity to at least give council some advice in terms of the pros and cons of a particular issue. What I find sometimes occurs is that we will be caught off guard. You'll introduce an item on the new items. Your administration knows nothing about it prior to you announcing it, and then we don't have an opportunity to provide you with good advice. That's what we're here to do. And so if you table it or you say, listen, this is a notice of motion, that works well. But if you're going to try to move something through and your administration can't speak to it, it becomes difficult for, I think, for us as a community moving forward on those, in that you have not perhaps had as much information or as much advice as is warranted on that. So I think there's some work to be done on it, but I agree with what also council has said, is it's not broken. It seems to be working, other than the odd time where we try to push something through. Some of what I see happening, and I'm going to jump on my soapbox for a minute if you don't mind. What I see happening at some points is that it's an item that could have been asked of administration during the course of the week. Even the last item, I'll go so far as to say that the contract, I wasn't asked to comment on it. I guess the administration was commented on it, but administratively, the contract manager on the police matter, we're going back to that for a moment, it already provides for overtime for all of the services. The contract manager that you were dealing with was strictly, as Councillor Caxero said, it was in your agenda package. Said very clearly what was there. And so at times it's a matter of what you bring to the table and using your administration for that advice. If you're stuck on something, throw it back to us or get us to report back on it, that type of thing. But I find with the notion of being able to pass 3 readings at one session, and that's Ontario law. I've never experienced it before, but the searching that I've done, yeah, there's a lot of communities that have that authority to do that. I think it's a dangerous precedent myself, but I'll get off my soapbox.
Deputy Mayor Malash, you had the floor, sir.
Still don't know if it answers the questions that I was asking. So I'm just wondering, is there a general set of rules right now that says, for instance, if I want to bring up the fact that my neighbor wants a fence put up around the municipal building, can I bring that up at a meeting? Okay, so we're just going to allow anything that we want to bring up. And that's my question. Like, as silly as it might sound, or I could have asked that question of administration without bringing it to a council meeting, but we're going to allow those kind of questions. We could go on all night with those kind of questions, is what I'm saying. So does the mayor have the right to say, take things off the agenda, or does he not have the right to take things off the agenda?
Okay, I was going to answer it, I'll let the CEO.
Through you, your worship, the agenda is set by council at the beginning of your meeting. And once it's set, it's set. And so you have that opportunity as individual councillors to bring any item you so choose. Your current rules, your current delegations, and your procedure allow you to bring any item of council interest to the table. And that's your determination. Council then determines whether or not to accept that on the agenda. So if a councillor brings item A to the table, and the rest of you determine that you don't want to hear about item A tonight, you can deny him or her that opportunity by accepting the agenda, by rejecting it and saying, no, we don't want to discuss that item. So once it's on your agenda and it's sent to you on Thursday, you have that opportunity at the very beginning of the meeting to say, why are we discussing this item? And you could have it removed at that point in time. The mayor has the authority to create the agenda through the process that we have in place right now. That's under your procedural bylaw. Once that's set, it's adopted and approved by this body at the onset of your meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Hunter. Then Councillor Vokes. Oh, you got it? Okay. Councillor Vokes.
Again, Council, I want to reiterate, it's not broke. Like, when I look at the problems we've had and the discussions we've had as a council.
Okay, Councillor Vokes, just to speed things up, if you got something new, because
I do.
Okay, well, I allowed you to speak second time. There is a motion on the table, and I should only let you speak once. But here I go, being that softy mayor again, I'm allowing you to do it, because I have some comments to make. You keep saying it's not broke. Well, I want to say something towards that, but go ahead.
Mayor, and I say it as gently, as kindly as I can, all due respect to you. If you don't want to allow me to speak the second time, then just tell me. I don't want you to speak the second time. and
Okay,
we will
it's
move
against
on.
the law. It's against our rules, sir. You can't speak second
Thank
time
you.
to motion.
That's
Okay,
fine.
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else hasn't spoke to the motion? And as a mover, you will get a second chance at the end. Okay. Councillor Bondi hasn't spoken yet.
Thank you. I agree with a lot of comments said, but Councillor Vokes has a lot of good points too. I don't think our new business section is broken. I see our deputy mayor wants to bring up, it looks like, a notice of an event tonight. We need to have those mechanisms in place so that we can bring up notices of events and similar things. I think our new business section on our agenda is also a very important democratic tool that we use as well for asking questions of past things, or perhaps we were at the coffee shop that week and we heard about the light at Tim Hortons and we're bringing it up. I'm not in favor of having the 3 readings. I think that would be very cautionary and proactive for removing the 3 readings. But I also think our council, all of us, respect each other enough to not vote on major decisions during new business. For example, we had, I don't know, anything on our agenda, but we've had it where we were naming the lane on Fairview and one of us wasn't here and we said, let's wait. Or I remember Councillor Caxero was gone somewhere and we didn't do that. And I remember, Steve, recently you were gone when we had a conversation. For example, when I brought up the deputy mayor under new business, it wasn't necessarily new business. In fact, it was very, very old business. But sometimes I think new business needs to be brought up by council without having an administration's opinion first, because I am one person, I am one council member. I don't know if the rest of you think this is an important issue or not. So I don't want to send administration on a wild goose chase doing this whole report, then bringing it to council. Sometimes issues can be easily minimized in a transparent manner here at the council table, where it is, we've had the issue with somebody wants a fence around municipal property. And you know what? Yeah, Rich, you could go in the back room and talk to administration and get that answer, but that's not what your residents want. Your residents want the rest of council to see what the issue is and say, you know what, the Harrow Soccer Park, can we put a fence by the parking lot? We're all familiar with this issue. And we talked about it as a council to see if it warranted any further work from our administration. I don't want to bury new business under red tape, because frankly, it isn't broke. I would be up to tweaking it and seeing what we can say and what we can't say. I think we don't take advantage of our notice of motion section enough, and I think we could do that. And I think possibly we don't take advantage of our unfinished business, which a lot of our business is. And I also think possibly we could have a council questions section or an announcements section. Because, if we find we have too many items coming up, we could meet every Monday, which I would be up to doing too, to expedite our business. We have too long between the agenda cutoff into our public meetings, and I feel like a lot of times our hands are tied. And that's how I've taken advantage of new business.
Councillor Caxero.
Through your worship, I don't have a problem with the new business. I do see, potentially some structure in it or some guidelines being helpful. The only thing that I see that occasionally happens is some of the items that get brought up are items that could wait an additional 2 weeks, that wouldn't necessarily have to be brought up the evening that they're brought up. And as a courtesy, just so that there is more information coming forward, if there is the potential for information, if it's done a couple weeks later, then that information could be had by all of us. That would be the only thing that I kind of see as the advantage.
Okay, I think everyone's spoken to this except Councillor Slavin and myself, and I have a few comments. Larry, okay. So there's me and then you, Steve. Where do I start? Well, we all know that a couple of weeks ago at a meeting, I brought this up, and yes, I did vote against it because I had gotten a phone call from Councillor Bjorkman, and it's kind of the same things I was saying, only he said it a little more appropriately than I did. That's why I voted against the motion that I had made, but this is pretty well, like everybody said, it's kind of the same thing, only different. Now, I heard it's not broken. 5 years ago, like, and I said this last week, transparency. The new council members, Councillor Bonnie, Councillor Bill Baker and Councillor John Scott brought this to our council. We're not transparent enough. And I agreed. And I agree that we're doing a great job of being transparent today. Except, and do I call it broken? It's got a crack in it. And that's all we're trying to do here. There's a crack in the thing. Let's tape it up, fix it. As you noticed in the agenda, there's a few changes. The mayor and administration are trying to correct, with a new clerk, some of these minor problems we have. You know, are we being more transparent because now we're going to start doing the same as the county does? Report on that in-camera meeting that we had. We're informing the public, you know, and that's all we're working to do is be more transparent. Now, when someone comes up here, a council member says, I've got new business. 1, 2, 3 things. How transparent is that to those people that are paying the taxes? They have no idea that's here. Oh, I see this agenda. Boy, it's a pretty nice agenda tonight. Nothing on there. I'm staying home. I'm not even going to watch it on television. And then all of a sudden, 5 or 6 items come up at the start of the meeting. Wow, if I'd have only known that was on, I'd have been there. Man, I got to hear about this one. But we've done it without, like Russ said, people knowing what's on the agenda. Transparency. How many times have we thrown, like I said last meeting, our administration under the bus? Some of us council members haven't got a clue of what some of the council members are speaking about. What are you talking about? I've been in that spot. Deputy Mayor's been in that spot before. I think we all have. Somebody bring something up. If we knew about it before the meeting, not so bad. That's the only thing I wanted to do. You've got plenty of time, and like I said 2 weeks ago, if it's a time-sensitive item, you think I'm going to try to stop you people? You wouldn't allow me to. I can't do that, and I wouldn't do that. I hope you think I wouldn't. It's just these items that administration hasn't got a clue what's going on, as well as council members. The public doesn't know what's going on. That word again, and Sherry used it tonight, transparency. That's all this is about. Now, I do have when you get your things in here, Tuesday by 2, we go over this agenda Thursday morning before the meeting. Yep, the mayor says I'm taking that off. My question would be, do I still have the authority to do that tonight if the mayor thinks there's a frivolous thing on here? You know, I'm going to check that out. I won't have to check that out if we pass this motion. But if it doesn't get passed, I will be checking that out, because if I got the authority to do it Thursdays, do I have the same authority to do that on something that I consider, not us as staff when we go over this on Thursday, but myself, to take it off because it's frivolous? It doesn't happen very often, I'll tell you that, Thursdays, that we do things like that. What else did I have here? So I think it's, when they say it's not broken, it's got a crack in it. I think we need to kind of tweak it a little bit. Doesn't need a lot of tweaking, but I'm also, like Sherry and everyone else, we want to be transparent. Let's be transparent and quit throwing administration under the bus. Councillor Bjorkman.
Thank you, Your Worship. The idea of new business is on the agenda. It's on everybody's agendas. And new business is something that's brought up, that is brought to the agenda prior to the agenda being published. It's something new, something that a councilor is bringing forward, something new to the town. That's new business. What I'm looking at here is non-agenda business. It's something that does come up. It's something that comes up between Tuesday and Monday's meeting. But we do need parameters around that. I do believe that we have passed some motions in the past where we should have had a little more information before we passed them. That's my opinion. We do need to share with the public anything that we're going to do beforehand, if we can. The committee itself, to dispel some of that, is only in place to amend the agenda. I'm not looking, this committee isn't here to say we're going to discuss new business and we're going to decide if this is new business or isn't. It's just to change the agenda so that the agenda has new business, which is actually new business, and non-agenda business, which comes in between agenda being published and the meeting date. Those are two different things. And that's just to get those right. As far as I'm concerned, it's a simple matter. We sit down, we can put parameters around what is considered something we can just bring forward the night, that it's something that is urgent, but it's not a major item. And it's pretty simple, and I will agree, for the most part, we do that here. Somebody's really attached to something, we know it's somebody's project, it doesn't go through. However, there are times we've moved on things that should have had more time and more information. So that's what this is for. It's regarding not removing new business, but adding non-agenda business. So it's its own heading. And it's for last minute things. Those will still be there. But there should be parameters around what we allow to be brought to the table so that our members and our residents know what's coming. And that's what I made this motion for. Thank you.
Okay, like, gee, I wish we could all ask him a question with regards to, but anyways, you ready for the question? Oh, we didn't have a second? Oh, I thought we did.
Sorry.
Before we get there, if you're saying we didn't have a seconder, we haven't got a motion on the floor, so Councilor Volks, you had your hand up first, so you're going to be allowed to speak. You made the motion. We had a mover and a seconder, did we not?
Excuse me, through your worship, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Councilor Bondi, did you not second it and then ask a question? No?
Wasn't I sitting over there?
No, she did.
No, I have Councilor Bjorkman making the motion and seconded by Councilor Caxero. That's what I have.
Fair enough.
Now,
If I could,
Councilor Volks. Yep.
when the discussions opened up about it, you turned to Councillor Bjorkman. Councillor Bjorkman said, well, what do you want me to say? It's there, you've seen it, you know what it's about. And the discussion started. That's what happened.
Yeah.
There was never a motion put forward.
I absolutely put up my hand and made a motion.
But if I could, if that's the case then, Bill, how is it the chair doesn't know it? I don't know it? Was it a subtle? Was it, I don't think it was profound enough that everybody here realizes that there was a motion put forward and a profound seconder.
Councilor Volks, I do have it moved and seconded. You say I didn't know. I do have it. Now, you don't have a seconder. You have a mover, not
I
a
don't know
seconder.
where seconder, yeah.
And both of these people have a mover, but no seconder.
That's right. He
Now,
said, just go with it.
Hey. No seconder. Oh, well, yeah, okay, yeah. Well, and that's my question. We don't have a seconder. So, we have Councilor Caxero.
Through your worship, I'm not going to prolong this tonight, but we can go back on the tape and we can look. I know I put up my hand. Actually, to the best of my recollection, and you can check on the tape, Councilor Bjorkman, I think, pushed it to the council. He didn't really make a motion. He pushed it to council to do what they want with it. And I made the motion. I thought somebody seconded it, but if they didn't, that's fine. But I know I either moved it or seconded it, one of the two. I know I had my hand up.
Be interesting. Watch the tape. You're right. So anyways, we don't have a motion. The clerk says it hasn't been moved and seconded. Councilor Volks.
I got nothing to say. I just.
Say, okay.
there was-
Councilor Snively, you had your hand up and,
No, I was going to ask
You're
a
fine.
question. If we did have a motion, I want just had a little bit more conversation.
yeah, we have no motion. Go ahead,
Okay.
sir.
And to your worship, the new business, I know some things are brought up, but we have to, you got to remember, we're elected officials here for the ratepayers. And when somebody outside says to me, they would like something brought to the table, okay, I understand that there won't be a decision that night, but I'll give you an example. Let's say Ridge Road, for example. Lots of people out there are saying, what can we do about Ridge Road? And the only reason I would bring that under new business if it wasn't on the agenda, to tell the public I'm bringing it forward so they know as an elected official I'm doing my job. And that's the only reason. As far as being approved that night, no, okay? But at least I'm telling the public out there I'm doing a job for them. I'm bringing it forward. And that's the whole thing about new business. Where a lot of new business, we would not get approved during the night. We'd have to have a report from administration. I know that. But I mean, as a public elected official, that is my duty to bring it forward. And the public can see that I am doing my job. And that's the only reason I bring some issues under new business. Because it's brought forward that week to me, or the previous week, and we haven't got time to get it on the agenda, Your Worship. And that's the only reason. As far as new business, and I'll say it again, for the last 3 or 4 meetings here, I think any new business that's come up here, we didn't have a problem with it. And I understand in the past we did have some issues, but I think as elected officials here, I think those issues are under the table. They're done. I think this council is working better now than we have in the last 3 or 4 months, to be honest with you. I think we are moving forward. So I like just to leave the new business like it is, okay? And if there is, administration has to come back with a report, I respect that. I know there was a couple issues I put on the agenda and they got taken out. You called me, Your Worship, and you said, I'm taking this off the agenda. I respect your opinion. Administration needed some time to go through it. But the reason I put it on there, I want the public to know I'm doing what I was elected to do. And that's the only reason I bring it forward. Thank you.
Okay. Bell went off when you said Ridge Road. Probably the last couple items that did come off, on a Thursday, the mayor took them off, like Councillor Snively just mentioned Ridge Road, and that was one of the items I brought off. When these things are brought to us for Thursday's meeting, the reason, and I'll tell you, the reason I took the Ridge Road topic off was we had just dealt with that maybe a month, no more than 2 months previous, and Mr. Nepsey was bringing a report back to council. He hadn't brought it back yet. So why am I going to let Councillor Snively or anybody else talk about Ridge Road when we're waiting for something? You know, like, and those are the only things that I look at along with administration on Thursdays. Like, had you brought that up on the Monday night early, man, you got to discuss it again. These are the things I don't think should happen on Monday night, coming to the meeting. Why would we talk about that again when we just talked about it a month ago and we're waiting for a report? Those are the things I don't want to see happen on Monday nights, Councillor Snively. But just hang on, I'll give you the floor back. Those are the only things that I'm worried about coming forward, not the business that needs to be done that night. So anyways, Councillor Snively.
No, I just used that for an example, Your Worship. But there was different issues that come forward that, you know, I understand that administration has to have their input. I understand that. But again, some of the issues, I just brought Ridge Road up, okay? There was different issues I know councilors brought forward. And as an elected official, that's what the public wants us to do. You know, it could go through in 10 seconds. Okay, as long as the public knows that we are directing administration to look into it. Like I have one tonight on here for the dog park. So, thank you.
Councillor Bjorkman.
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion that we receive the report and we send it to administration for review.
So moved. Councillor Caxero? Support? Any questions to the motion? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Councillor Snively.
Next item, a new business, Councillor Snively, establishment of a dog park in Ward 4 at the Harold Soccer Complex.
Councillor Snively,
Through your worship, I was just saying to you, and with respect to you and respect to administration, I don't expect anything to be done with this tonight, but I like to bring this forward to Doug. If we can look at this, it's Mr. Rogers that brought it forward to me, and you're going to meet with Ron tomorrow, I understand, you were telling me. The residents in Harrow, there's quite a few of them that use the soccer complex in Harrow for a dog park, okay? I know that park is not being utilized at this time. I'm not saying that's the proper location for it, okay? But the only reason I'm bringing forward, I'd like the administration to look into it and come back to council with a report. And that's it. Thank you. One other thing. As far as financial burden on the town, they're willing to come up with their own money. If there's any fencing that has to be put up, they'll put up the money for fencing.
So that's a motion you're making, okay? Supported by Councillor Caxero. Any questions to the motion? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Next item of new business, as added to the agenda, is Councillor Vokes speaking to budget deliberations.
Councillor Vokes.
Thank you, Mr. Auger. I want to go back a little bit, people. I know that the evening on our budget deliberations, there was a concern as it relates to the clinic in Harrow and the endorsement of that money. In McGregor. Thank you, Councillor Bundy. And it was an agenda item on that evening. And in terms of we as the town of Essex, whether or not we were going to financially support it for approximately $39,000. Donna, in her work on that particular file, talked to council about it, shared with council the history with us with Amherstburg, shared with council the history of everything as it relates to that, shared with council the history of the dialogue they had with, I believe, Mr. Baker and Margot and some of the other representatives. But where I believe it had faulted, and I think we need to make amends with it, is Donna had made it very clear to us as a council, unprofoundly, that if we were to give that money to McGregor Clinic to the tune of around $39,000, we can't do it because it's illegal. It's bonusing. She made that very clear. Very clear. And that's what really stopped us from not endorsing that money to that particular facility. But where we faulted, I believe, and I think we need to correct it for the purpose of the records, is we put a motion to the floor as a council to decide whether or not we're going to afford that money. And I want to go on record and say I supported giving that money because I really felt the need for that money going there. The balance of council didn't support that money. Therefore, the motion was defeated. My question is, what if I would have got 3 other councillors on board with me and the motion got passed and we forwarded that money? After Donna told us very clearly, council, it's illegal. And that's where I was trying to speak to it, and I wasn't allowed to speak because I wanted to stop it there and clear that up. Because right now, if we check the records, I believe, it will show that we put it to motion to decide whether we were going to forward $39,000 to that, which really put us in an illegal position to even do it. The discussions at that place and time should immediately stop there, and we should have just received it and moved on. Thank you.
Mr. Phillips. Anyone else? Councillor Vokes.
Thank you, Worship. So, and I don't want to prolong it, people, but I just want to make sure that we recognize what administration tried doing for us in guiding us, but we as a council got, and I say we, got a little maybe confused as to the protocol and what we were doing. And I'm just looking at it because in terms of the drainage issues, when it was pointed out to me by Mr. Phillips when he brought me into his office and had pointed out to me that I may be in conflict. I come to the next meeting and recognizing what he was, in direction he was giving me, and I remanded what I did. I fixed what I did by saying what I did was I shouldn't have done. There was an interest maybe that the public could see as that, and that allowed me to do that. I'm concerned with this. It's not a big political issue out there, but if it's not correct, let's make sure we're doing the right things. And if there is there an administrative way of correcting that so that, again, we recognize the direction administration gave us and we just concluded at that and not recognize that motion as our steering opportunity to decide.
Any comments from anyone else? Deputy Mayor Melange.
I'm not sure, just going back to that evening, I'm not sure who made the motion or who didn't make the motion, but I think everybody understood that it was illegal or it would put us in a position where we were doing something that was not legal for us to do. Well, because potentially we have the ability to vote it, to do it anyway, and then pay the consequences, I guess. Well, you voted in favor.
Hey, excuse me.
So, but anyway, I'm just saying.
But we don't want sidebars here.
Yeah. I'm
Deputy
just
Mayor
saying
Melange has the floor.
there was a motion put there, and then it was up to us to decide whether we wanted to do it or not, I guess. I don't know what you're trying to clear up.
All right, but Mr. Phillips has a comment now. I'll get back.
Thank you, through your worship. Our role, again, administration's role, is to provide the best professional advice we can. I've seen it, I've experienced it, where councils will choose to take a different direction than the administrative direction or the advice that they're getting. I've seen it where councils have done something that effectively is against the rules. I think it's wise on your part to recognize that you chose to and you voted accordingly. But it doesn't stop a council from saying, thank you very much, administration, but you know what, in this one, we're still going to go ahead and do it. Then you are answerable to the people out there. Then you're answerable. We won't, even though we have a dual responsibility through the provincial statutes, because the corporation is a child of the province. We're created by an act of the province. So if there are things within the provincial statutes under the Municipal Act that we know as an administration are wrong, it's our job to tell you. It's not my job to go to the ombudsman, but it's one of theirs. And if they find out about it, or if they are watching council carefully, the public can call you on that, and then you are subject to that investigation or through that process. So our job is to keep you out of trouble as best we can and to provide you with the best advice. But that does not stop, and in response directly to Randy, into Council Vokes, that doesn't stop you from saying, you know what, we still want to go ahead and do something that we know is marginally or terribly wrong. I've seen it, have the experience. It's not pretty to stand by from administration's perspective after you've fought real hard to say this is wrong, but I've seen councils do it.
Thank you, sir. Counter votes.
As long as the administration is telling us what we did, we had the right as a council under all rules inclined to do that, I'm okay with that. If that's what you're telling me, that we have that lateral opportunity to do that in terms of a personal decision as a committee, and so we can endorse something illegal, which we could have done. That could have been an illegal bonusing because if we would approve that through that motion, the corporation of the town of Essex would have been writing them a check for $39,000, handing it to them fully knowing it's illegal. But we're saying we can do that. So if we're being told we can do that, then let's just start writing checks to whoever for whatever. I got my answer. I'm not sure about the answer, but if that's what you're telling me it is, then let's just start writing checks to whoever for whatever, and we'll just run our business that way. Okay, thank you.
But I'd just say, we're not just going to start writing checks, whoever we want to. it better get passed by council. Everything was explained to us when that group was here with regards to what we're talking about. Administration, Donna Hunter told us exactly. And just like Deputy Mayor Malash said, we were all aware of, yeah, I knew I could vote for it too. Break the laws? Oh, never. We've broken the laws once that I can remember as sitting in here in this chair, and I reported, I want no part of this. Council decided, and it was about 5 years ago, I made a point to tell the press, I am no part of this, because as long as I'm sitting here, I'm not going to break the law. If I break the law out there, I'm going to get caught. If I break the law in here, man, get me out of this chair, believe me. So, as Deputy Mayor said, we all were aware we were not going to break the law as a body, as a council. If it was 4-3 in favor of not sending that check, we did it. You know, doesn't matter the total number of votes, majority rules here. And if it would have been that it went the other way, I'd have made that statement to the country that I'm not part of this, because I'm not going to break the law, come hell or high water. Councilor Vogt.
Sir, I'm not going to continue, but I just got a point to you. Is during the motion process, sir, you didn't know whether or not you were going to break the law, because the motion would have decided whether or not you broke the law. And I'll just end it at that. Thanks for everybody for your time.
I don't want to prolong it either, but as soon as Mrs. Hunter said, if you give this, you're breaking the law. Sure, I didn't know. I'm voting not to give the money. Now, what do the rest of yous do? You're right. I didn't know at the time that I voted how it was going to go until we counted the votes. But I knew I wasn't voting to pass that money out, because if I do and it passes, we're breaking the law. So I'm not going to say another word either.
Last item of new business, Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you. Through you, your worship, I just want to bring to attention to the residents of Essex and to our news media and the rest of council, those in attendance tonight, that the Essex Train Show will take place this coming weekend. It's both Saturday and Sunday, February 27th and 28th. It's going to be held at Essex Public School. Both days, you can get in from 9 in the morning until 5 o'clock in the evening. It's $5 for adults to get in, $2 for kids, and under 3 is free. I've attended it for the last couple of years, and I can tell you, if you've got little kids, it's a nice place to take them. The Essex Public School Gymnasium is jam full of different train sets that are set up, and some of them are absolutely spectacular. They'll go around perhaps the whole gymnasium, just one track, and then they've got other tracks in the middle. They sell all kinds of train tracks, and if you're not a train track enthusiast right now, you will be once you go to the train show. It's something that's right here in our own little town, and it's known as the largest train show, model train show in southwestern Ontario. So take the advantage of the fact that it's right here in our own little hometown, and come on out and take a look. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Malash. These are the types of items that we do want to see on news.
Item 13, bylaws. 13A, bylaw number 1488, being a bylaw to provide for an interim tax levy.
Councillor Cacciaro and Councillor Snively, any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 13B, bylaw number 1489, being a bylaw to authorize the borrowing of money to meet current expenditures.
Councillor Cacciaro, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
And item 13C, bylaw number 1490, to confirm the proceedings of this February 22nd regular council meeting.
Moved by Councillor Snide and supported by Councillor Cactero. Questions? Favor? Motion carries. Looking for an adjournment. Councillor Cactero, Councillor Bjorkman. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries. Have a great evening, everyone.